What is up, everyone? It is officially fall out. Even though it's a nice sunny day here, it is very chilly where I am. And I'm feeling all the fall vibes. I'm feeling the fall colors, feeling the fall drinks. Not feeling it getting darker earlier and earlier every day, but there's nothing I can do about that. Let's talk about my September reads. So everything that I read in September. I did read 20 books this past month. I'm not going to talk about all of them in detail. I'm going to kind of like overview most of them, maybe go in a little bit more on certain ones here and there, but the few duds that I have, like, we don't really need to get too much into those. So I'm going to stop with this opening right here, and let's just go ahead and hop right on in to everything that I read in the month of September. So the first 3 books that I kicked off the month with were the rest of the Throne of Glass series. I read Tower of Dawn, Kingdom of Ash, and then Assassin's Blade. I know Assassin's Blade was out of the reading order. Whatever, it was still fine. I don't really need to get too much into these thoughts because I do have 2 full videos on all of my thoughts on these books, like really in depth. Go check those out, the Throne of Glass reading vlogs. However, if you have not read the series, I just want to say spoilers. Those were full spoilers, like, sorry. But overall, this series was so fantastic, and I did feel kind of in a bit of a slump afterwards. Even now, like, I still just think about this series and wanting to go back and reread it already, but since I just finished, I'm obviously not going to do that. But I absolutely loved the series. Assassin's Blade I did really like. I'm not the biggest fan of prequel novels, so I think it is my least favorite in the series. However, it was still great. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Tower of Dawn was such a surprise for me. I was not expecting to like this book because I didn't care about Kale, and I just wanted to get back to, like, our main people in the book. But this book was fantastic. Kale's redemption arc and the emotional journey that he goes through in his inner mental emotional healing was absolutely fantastic. I give this one 5 out of 5. In Kingdom of Ash, I basically cried through the majority of the book. It was so fantastic. Such a great ending to an amazing series, and I think about this book. I think about both of these like almost daily. So both of these 5 out of 5 stars, absolutely incredible. Everything else that I read the rest of the month, I did read on my Kindle. I either got ebook copies from my library or I read on Kindle Unlimited. So the next thing that I read this month was The Elite by Kiara Cass, which is the 2nd book in the Selection series. It's not for me. This series isn't for me. I think the characters are very bland and very annoying. I think there's like no spice, no flavor. Like, America just is not it for me as a main character. Neither is Maxon. He's not my type of like hero. Aspen as well, like, he's fine, but I don't really care. I'm not super invested in anyone. The entertainment value is there. It's a very quick, easy read. I think maybe if I would have read this book, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, I might have been more into it, but it's not my vibe. It's too like light and fluffy, and that's just like not what I'm feeling right now. So I gave it 2 out of 5. Honestly, that's like kind of generous. I do plan on finishing The One, which is the last book in it, and then there are 2 spinoffs. I'm not bothering with the spinoffs. But since I've already invested 2 books and they are super quick reads for me, I do plan on reading The One. I'm just not like in a rush for it. Next, I read a novella called Can I Come Over by Whitney G. I gave this one 2 out of 5. It was fine for what it was. It was entertaining, a super quick read, obviously, because it was really short, about a romance writer who was struggling to write her books and decided to like start a relationship with a guy online, just like a friendship, and they decided to meet in person. Turns out he is her dad's best friend. So there's that trope in it. I do like that trope, but I don't know. I thought it was fine. Not like my favorite thing I've ever read. Just kind of forgettable, but I don't know. If you're looking for something short and kind of fun, I'd recommend it. Next, okay, so Throne of Glass was like my favorite reads of the month, but I finished the Falling Away series. Well, not technically finished. I still have Until You to read, but I read Falling Away and Aflame by Penelope Douglas in the Falling Away series, and oh my gosh, they were so good. Just Penelope Douglas can do no wrong in my book. I am such a huge fan of her writing. This is my last series of her that I had to read. I've read everything else by her, and I don't think I've ever put something less than 4 out of 5 stars, and that's not even me just being like, because I'm a big fan of hers, that I'm going to rate her books higher. Truly, genuinely, her books are 4 out of 5 stars or above for me every single time. More than not, it's 5 out of 5 for me. Her writing is just fantastic. Her character development is fantastic, and it's so well showcased in Falling Away. I was not super excited to get Casey's story. I wasn't like a huge fan of her in Bully. I was just kind of like, I don't really care about her. This book totally changed my perception of her. It also changed my perception of Jax. I was more just kind of like intrigued by Jax, I guess, especially after his actions at the end of Rival. I was just kind of like, oh, he really just did that. Okay. But their two characters felt so natural and just right together. Like you could just tell that they just fit together, and it's emotional and raw, but also like really fun and spicy. So I loved Falling Away. And then Aflame. Oh my god. I was not really caring about Aflame as much because I liked Jared and Tate, but they were not my favorite in the series. They were not my favorite couple of Penelope Douglas's altogether. I liked them, but it was kind of like, you know, they're fine, not my favorite. This book totally changed it. This is by far my favorite in the series, even though it's technically a novella, but it's a lengthy novella. It's like 260 to almost 300 pages. It was fantastic. I absolutely loved the way that it started, where you get this moment of Jared and Tate back in high school at their prom together, and like you can just tell how much they are in love with each other, knowing that then when you get to the next chapter, they're broken up. Like it is so heartbreaking. I kind of love the whole like they need to go their separate ways, because in so many high school romances, like yes, it works in high school, but you get so many new challenges after you leave high school, and I thought this was a really great showcase of that. Like having to grow separately to then come back together. And even though you know by the end of the book they're going to be together, still the journey that they go through is beautiful. And I really grew to like Jared and Tate in this book. And I think part of that had to do with seeing them in Rival and Falling Away, and then how they get to Aflame. I liked that journey of how they got to the point that they were to needing to break up. Jumping ahead 2 years later when they are broken up and getting reunited, re-entangling with each other, it was just A+. I loved Aflame so much. Really impressed with it. Next, 5 out of 5 read after Throne of Glass and Fallen Away. This is my other favorite of the month, and it is Sweet Dandelion by Michaela Smeltzer. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. Her name looks similar enough to mine that I think it might be Michaela, but it's spelled a little different. So I'm sorry, but I think that's what it is. This book, wow. I was not expecting this at first. Thank you, Lovely Like Laura and Makeup by Mary, for both recommending this. It was already on my radar, and then both of them talked about it individually, and I was like, okay, I love a lot of things that both of them recommend, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a shot, and I'm so glad I did. I mean, you say student teacher trope to me, and I'm gonna read it. Like, you really don't need to tell me anything more. That is, I think, my favorite trope. I don't know. One of my favorite tropes. I will say I do prefer it when it is a college setting rather than a high school. However, this one being high school, she is 18, like she's in an extra year, because trigger warning in this book for school shootings. This follows Danny, who was in a school shooting. Her mom was a staff member there, and her mom was shot and killed in front of her. And then Danny was also shot, so she has to go through a lot of rehab to learn how to rewalk and such. So then she moves in with her brother, and she starts attending this new school where she has an hour every single day blocked out of her schedule to meet with her guidance counselor, which is Lachlan. And I think that's how you say it, Lachlan. Again, why can't I pronounce any of these names? I'm pretty sure it's Lachlan. I was not expecting the emotional roller coaster that is this book. Just seeing Danny's perspective, you're in her head. And so just hearing the way that she talks about the trauma that she's went through and how the world kind of moves on very quickly after school shootings happen, and that people have like a short memory of those except for the people involved in them. That was really heartbreaking, but also beautiful at the same time to see her work through that and adjust to how her life is and how it's going to be forever, that it's forever changed after this shooting. And her and Lachlan's relationship, while it is forbidden, it feels very natural and just right between the two of them. You know, when you're reading a book and you're like, okay, like, I don't know if these characters necessarily make sense, but these characters make so much sense together, and it just is really beautiful. It does have that bit of like the forbidden aspect. It doesn't get like as much into the taboo-ness of like student-teacher relationships as some books do, but it is still there. This book has just like stuck in my mind. I'm going to buy a physical copy of it. I still, like I said, I still think about it. And when I read so many books in a month, or like when I'm trying to get through my reading goal, some things like do just slip my mind because they're not super memorable, but this is one that I genuinely like I'm still thinking about, and it's just really beautiful, and I would definitely recommend it. The next 3 I'm gonna kind of lump together because they were the first 3 books in the Born in Blood Chronicles by Cora Riley. So it is, let's see, Bound by Duty, Bound by Honor, and Bound by Hatred. Those are the first 3, and these were my first mafia romance books that I ever have read, and wow. I like it. I did take a mafia class in college and that was just really interesting. I just think that the mafia is like kind of fascinating. Please, like, I don't want any association, but it is fascinating. And these books were a lot of fun and I am already started on the fourth one and I plan to finish the rest of the series. The first two I gave 4 out of 5 stars and the third one I give like 4.5. It's not a full 5 for me, but like it's by far my favorite one that I've read so far. First one follows Arya and Luca, who are 2 members of like different mobs, one from Chicago, one from New York, and Luca is eventually going to become capo, and I think he does become capo in the first one. And so he's like the head honcho in charge, and Arya gets married off to him. It is an arranged marriage. Pretty much all of these are so far, and I'm just going to assume that most of them follow. That's kind of just like how it seems to go. I did like this one. I think I liked seeing their characters more in the third book, and I kind of liked the involvement of them in that one a little more, but I felt like this one set up the series really well and both of the families very well and like the whole world that it is. The second book follows Dante and Valentina, who are both from the Chicago mob, which is where Arya's family is from. And Dante also becomes capo, so like he's the head honcho of Chicago, Luca's the head honcho of New York. I did like this one a lot too. I did really like Valentina and Dante's relationship. They are both widows, so this is their second marriage for both of them. So they're both processing their old marriages. So I keep calling him Luca. Dante genuinely loved his first wife, which is kind of rare in this world, where Valentina was married to a gay man, but in the mafia obviously he couldn't be out, so they were married, but they never like consummated their marriage and never really had like a real marriage between the two of them. It was more of like a friendship, so their marriage was really cool. I did like the little twist at the end that kind of brought them closer together, and I liked Dante. I know we don't get like too much into him, but I think that's why I was really intrigued by him a little more than Luca. I did end up liking Luca more by the third book, but no, there was something about Dante that I liked. But the best book of them all that I've read so far was the third one, which follows Gianna from the Chicago mob and Matteo from the New York mob. So Matteo is Luca's younger brother and Gianna is Arya's younger sister. Their dynamic together is so much fun because Arya and Luca are very much like, I don't know, they're not necessarily polite to each other, but they're more like cordial, kind of same with Dante and Valentina. They're a little more like cold and cordial towards each other. Gianna and Matteo, they just tell the other one what they're thinking, kind of. Actually, communication is a big issue for them, but they're just 2 completely opposing forces that just clash over and over, and it's so fun to watch. Gianna does attempt to run away from the mafia, which was cool to like get that little adventure for a bit. Obviously that doesn't last. I did grow frustrated with the lack of communication between them, especially when Gianna, you know that she loves him and that she is growing more okay with this life, but she just doesn't want to be okay with it. And I get that, but it was literally like, I think within like the last 40 pages or something, and she was like leaving him, and I was like, what are you doing? It did take so long to get the reconciliation, but it did finally come, so that was great. And yeah, by far they were my favorite characters, and I did like seeing Arya and Luca's dynamic with each of their siblings, like kind of as couples. It was just very cool to see the juxtaposition of Arya and Luca and Gianna and Matteo, because those 2 couples could not be more different from each other. So that was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to keep reading the rest of the series. Next up, I read Color Me Pretty by B. Celeste. I have already read a lot of B. Celeste books. The Truth About Tomorrow and The Truth About Heartbreak, 2 of my absolute favorite books from her. Absolutely fantastic. 2 of my favorite books that I've read so far this whole year. This one was a little disappointing, I think, just because I had such like high expectations, especially after Underneath the Sycamore Tree. I also loved that one. But Color Me Pretty was good. I did like it. I think I would give it like 3.5, 4, like kind of floating around there. Trigger warning for eating disorders in this one. Our main character Della has struggled with eating disorders, and in the book she does like kind of ebb and flow with that a bit. So just a warning for that. This is a father's best friend trope. Della's father's dead, so there is not like ever that aspect of having to hide it from her father. It's more like hiding it from the press finding out, because Della is in like a bit of a public eye because her dad was a public figure and then had a big scandal and went to jail and got killed. So Della's been dealing with a lot, but her and Theo's dynamic did just feel very natural. It didn't really feel like weird with having such a big age gap. I personally like age gap. I don't really care. if the characters are pretty far apart in age. It is like a very emotional book and a pretty heavy book for the most part. Like I wouldn't say this is like the easiest, like lightest, fluffiest thing to read, but that's not the point of it. And it does deal with very like heavy subjects, but I think it does it in a really nice way, and the writing is beautiful, and B. Celeste's character development is always on point. And even if you think like the relationship somehow is wrong in a way, she always has a way of making it feel so right. So I really liked it. Next up, I read Their Stepsister by Alexa Riley. Again, another super short novella. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars out of 5. I mean, it pretty much is what it sounds like. And if you're looking for something just super quick and really taboo, like that's kind of your cup of tea there. There isn't really much else to say about it, so I'll leave it at that. Now, this next one is not going to be for everyone, so I'm just going to warn you right now that Seven Rue just might not be the author for you if you are not super comfortable with some taboo topics, because she is like the queen of taboo. She does a lot of reverse harem, like student teacher age gap. She does a lot of that, and she like really just is fearless in writing those. So just a warning on that. I read the Birdie duet by Seven Rue, so it's her 2 books, Forbidden and Baby Bird, put together just in one, because actually I think Forbidden got banned on Amazon. Actually, I think both of them got banned on Amazon, so then she put them together and then they're not banned anymore, but they're the same exact story. I gave this like 3 out of 5 stars, but honestly I think I could give it like 3.5, because you know what, just props for going there. So it is a reverse harem, and there is an age gap, and it does follow our main character Birdie. Her dad, not blood related, more like he raised her, but they're not blood related. He's not her biological father. Her uncle, again, not her biological uncle, more like just a father's friend that has helped raise her. And Luke, again, father's best friend, no blood relation, but buckle up. This is just, it's not for the faint of heart. If you are looking to like maybe push the boundaries of what you're reading a bit, maybe give it a try. I thought it was just a lot of fun. I'm very much so like I can separate what is fiction and what is being written in a book, and what I think I would do, or like what I would want to like justify happening in real life. I think books are a safe space to be able to read whatever kind of situations you want to be reading about, whether that is like age gap, reverse harem, student teacher, like that. I think there's a difference between books and real life, that I know that separation. I think some people have an issue with separating the two, but if this is not your thing, then just don't read it. But it was a lot of fun. I've read everything by Seven Rue so far, except for her newest release that is The Way We Get By. I haven't read that one yet, but I've read everything else, and I really like her writing. It's very quick, super easy to read. It's very like dialogue heavy, so it is like very quick to breeze through. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun, so I enjoyed it a lot. I will say though, it was not my favorite by her. Echo is still by far my favorite that I read. I did like this one, but Birdie as a character, I was just like, yikes. So I don't know, I did like it, but it's not my favorite thing that I've read by her so far. Next up, I read Shatter Me, which is the first book in the Shatter Me series, and then Destroy Me, which is the novella that comes right after it. It was just like in the same copy from the library that I got. It was just at the end of the book, so obviously I got onto reading that as well. So I gave Shatter Me, I think I gave it 4 out of 5, and I gave Destroy Me maybe like 3.5 out of 5, maybe 4. I did really like Shatter Me. It did take me a while to get into though. The writing style just took me a bit to get used to, and figuring out the world, and Juliet and Warner and Adam, like figuring out all of their motives and actions took me a while, and still I don't really feel like I fully know those characters. I know Juliet a bit better, and Destroy Me really took me into Warner's head, so I did enjoy that a lot. I'll get to that in a second. I think the best thing about Shatter Me was that it set up a lot of questions for me. I have a lot of questions that I need answered, which is a great thing when it's in a series, because it makes me want to read the next book, so I am waiting on the next one from the library. I am intrigued by the premise of the book, so I do like it. Is it my favorite dystopian that I read so far? No, but I'm interested. And then Destroy Me, which is a novella completely told from Warner's point of view. I really enjoyed that, mostly because Warner's actions really made no sense to me and shatter me. Like, he was all of a sudden in love with Juliet kind of out of nowhere, and I was like, what? You don't know her? Like, I get that insta love is a thing. Insta love is not my favorite trope. I really don't like that. I like more of a slow burn, natural occurrence of a romance. That's why I was like, Warner, what is your deal, dude? Like, obviously you're evil, but you're supposed to be the bad guy, but I don't really think he's the bad guy, and I still don't think so. I'm spoiler free on that, so do not spoil me. But I don't trust Adam, so I'm a little sus on him, and I'm thinking that Warner, like, is not the actual bad guy, you know? Or else why would we have gotten into his head? I feel like he's not the real bad guy in these books. So I am excited for that. I always love getting into the villain's head. I am much more drawn to villains in like movies, TV shows, books. So I'm very excited to see where the second book goes. And then the second book that I ended the month with was Losing It by Cora Carmack. I did like this one a little more. I gave it like 3 out of 5. It was a student teacher trope. Like I said, I'm a sucker for that. And it was college age, so I did like that better. It was just very like light and fluffy, a super easy read. Like I literally sat down on the couch and read it maybe in like 4 hours. Like it was very, very quick to read. I think overall just kind of forgettable. I don't think there was anything super special about either of the characters. I know there are more books in the series, but I don't plan on finishing it. It was fine, but just overall kind of forgettable. Not my favorite. Ooh, okay, so that was all of my September reads. So in October, what I'm currently reading right now, I'm currently reading Red, White, and Royal Blue. I'm almost done with it. I only have like 15% left, but it was getting late last night and I finally needed to put it down, but I didn't want to, so that I am going to be finishing up. I'm also reading Serpent and Dove right now. I'm not vibing with it yet, but I mean, we'll see. So I'll talk about that at the end of October for my October wrap-ups. I'm also planning on finishing The Born in Blood Chronicles this month by Cora Riley, the first 3 that I already read. Planning on finishing up those. I really want to finally get around to finishing Warstorm, the last book in the Red Queen series. That one is just dragging for me, but I have literally been reading that book for like 2 months now, because I just don't want to go back into it. So I do want to finally push through and read that and see how the whole series ends, because I was such a huge fan of the series at the start. I loved Red Queen. I really liked Glass Sword. Kind of liked King's Cage, and now Warstorm. I'm just like, oh, it's just dragging. But I need to see what happens with Maven, because he's a villain that I want more of. So I am looking forward to that. But yeah, that is it for September. I will be back at the end of the month for another wrap-up of everything that I read. That's what I'm kind of planning on doing every month here on this channel. But if there are any videos that you want to see, any books that you want me to read and like reading vlogs on, please let me know. I'm kind of open to making whatever kind of content, book-related content on this channel that you guys want to see. So yeah, guys, I hope you're all having a great fall. A good intro into October and spooky season, and that everyone is staying healthy and safe and well.